it's not in an eating disorder way, it's in a everything is made out of chemicals and tastes like plastic now way. It's disgusting. I'm like I'm literally sitting here, I'm very hungry, and everything I'm going through my brain that I could possibly eat, that's disgusting, that's disgusting, that's disgusting. All were my favorite foods a few months ago. That and just choosing what to eat. Do I want the cancer-causing chemicals, or do I want the chemicals that are gonna cause my blood not to clot in 5 years? All the food is nasty. All the food is poison. That is my problem. The food is trying to kill me.
That video hit millions of views, and the comment section became its own investigation. Thousands of people showed up independently saying the same thing. So the question is whether the pattern is describing something real, and if it is, what exactly is different? The first honest way to answer that is to see if the food itself measures differently. Somebody actually ran that test.
Today we are comparing chicken breasts. This is from my local butcher. This is what I usually get my chicken from. And then we also have chicken from Walmart as well as Purdue chicken. We're gonna weigh out the biggest ones. So we have our scale set up here. Now we're gonna take the biggest breast from our local butcher shop, and it measures in at 187 grams. So we've cut the Walmart one to take out that excess that was on the sides.
392 grams.
What?
And the other one was
187?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from our local butcher shop. This is the Walmart chicken breast. This is the Purdue breast, which is supposed to be a little bit better quality than the Walmart one. Let's go ahead and weigh this one out.
347.
Oh my gosh.
The Walmart chicken came in 109% larger than the butcher chicken. The Purdue was 85% larger. The Walmart one was more than twice the weight. So where is all that extra weight coming from? Some of it is water and salt solutions added before packaging. On top of that, American chicken is bathed in chlorine at the processing plant to kill bacteria, a practice banned across the European Union since 1997 because European regulators decided that if you need a chemical bath to make the meat safe, the sanitation problem earlier in the process should probably be fixed instead. And a lot of American chicken now shows up with visible muscle defects called spaghetti meat and woody breast, which happen when broilers are bred to grow so fast their muscles literally can't develop normal fiber structure. Now the beef.
Some people have asked me what foods I do not eat as a food scientist, and I will list 2 of them right now that are off the top of my head. Any kind of burger that is cooked more on the raw, rare side. So I usually order a burger well done. This is because mechanically tenderized ground beef, basically if you take a thing of ground beef and you're going like this to it, you're chopping it all up with some big old spikes. If there's like a little piece of meat down there that has E. coli on it, salmonella, whatever it is, you are basically taking that and distributing it everywhere in that ground meat.
But even better quality meat doesn't explain the whole story. So what about the produce?
I wanted to see how well I could start sweet potato slips and use 3 different types of potatoes so that I could know if I could just go to the grocery store, buy a sweet potato. Sweet potato number 1 is one that we grew from slips that we got at the co-op this season in our garden. This little sweet potato grew up in this bed right here, and now I have been letting it put on roots, and it has put on a lot of roots. Sweet potato number 2 is an organic sweet potato that I got at Publix, and this thing has put on a ton of roots too. Sweet potato number 3 is just a regular old sweet potato, and someone explained to me why there are no roots whatsoever. This sweet potato has sat in the water in the same conditions as the other 2 for the same amount of time, and it has put on 0 roots.
That video has been circulating for months as proof that American supermarket produce is chemically treated to the point of being biologically dead. And there's a real practice in the background. Sprout inhibitors do get used on stored produce. One well-known example is a chemical called chlorprofem, which was historically used on stored potatoes to prevent sprouting during long storage. The EU stopped allowing it in 2020 after its approval wasn't renewed over safety concerns. But her experiment doesn't actually prove her conclusion. It shows a difference between 3 sweet potatoes. It doesn't tell us why. The third one could have been from a different variety, stored differently, sitting on the shelf longer, or handled in ways she can't see from her kitchen. What her experiment really shows is that regular shoppers don't actually know what's been done to the food they buy, and there's no easy way to find out. That's a real problem, but it's a different problem than the one she's claiming. So if we can't always trust what a viral video is claiming, and we can't fully trust the labels either, is there anywhere we can find a hard, provable difference between American food and food in other countries? It turns out there is, and the evidence isn't hidden. It's sitting on the shelf in 2 different countries at the same time.
The food in the US is poison, and let me show you. I've been in France for the past 14 days. And my clothes simply no longer fit. And it was not big at all before, literally on the tight side. They're all falling off to the point where if I let this go, it'll fall down. And for some context, back at home, I work out multiple times a week. I eat super clean, no processed food, I drink filtered water, make my own butter, make my own sourdough. It simply doesn't add up. Like, what is the difference? It has to be just the quality of food there.
Her personal experience doesn't prove anything on its own, but it points at a specific question that does have a documented answer. Because when you take a product made by the same American company, produced at the same American factory, and compare the version sold in the US to the version shipped abroad, they're often not the same product.
Why do they sell Americans the shittier, less safe version here? They make a Canadian version of Fruit Loops that they undoubtedly produce in this country, in the US. They already make it, and they already have the formulation for it here, and they ship it up to Canada, and yet the one that they sell here has red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, and BHT. All of those ingredients are not included in their international version of Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
And when people say like, okay, so they know how to make the better version, they're already making it, they're already selling the better version.
Right.
Why do they sell Americans the shittier, less safe version here?
That specific comparison has been verified by side-by-side ingredient checks anyone can do at the grocery store. And the reason has a name. In the European Union, food additives generally have to be approved by an independent safety authority before they can be used, and the burden of proof sits on the company. In the United States, food companies can often self-affirm that an ingredient is safe under a category called generally recognized as safe, and the FDA doesn't always independently review it before it reaches the shelf. One example makes the gap concrete. In the EU, products containing certain synthetic dyes have to carry a warning label about possible effects on children's attention and activity. The European rules gave companies a reason to reformulate for that market. Those same requirements didn't apply in the US, so the American formulation could remain unchanged. It's the same brand, the same factory, and two different products for two different sets of rules. That's not an accident. It's a business decision made possible by a paperwork gap, which starts to answer part of the mystery. The people saying American food is different aren't imagining it. In documented cases, they're eating a different version of the exact same product, but that answer only covers the packaged stuff. It doesn't explain what happens to people who don't eat processed cereal at all.
I came to America about 30 years ago. I was really thin. My whole family was thin. We were eating the same foods at home. We were not going out to eat at McDonald's. We were making everything at home, and we massively started gaining weight on the same food we would have been eating back home. Fast forward to today, and this has happened with 3 families I have helped come over from either Russia or Ukraine. Right now, I'm helping one family from Russia, and there's like 6 of them, and they are all of a healthy weight. Yesterday, I talked to them, and they're like, Liana, we're gaining weight. There is something in the food. There are added things. There are things that change the way we feel hunger.
Lena's account isn't scientific evidence on its own, but it's not just her either.
Our daughter has been going to a French immersion school for the last 7 years. And so we've talked to them about this, and I've heard multiple times from teachers something along the following lines. You know, it's really weird. I came here and I've been eating the exact same diet, exact same food, everything the same. I walk, exercise the same amount and everything. I put on 10 to 15 pounds during the school year. I go back to France in the summer, weight comes off. So this isn't talking about the poison and the health issues and everything, but obviously there's something in our food.
What causes it is harder to pin down because when someone moves countries, everything changes at once. Diet, activity, stress, sleep, and food access all shift together. But the factors researchers keep pointing at aren't hidden ingredients. American portion sizes run significantly larger than European ones across almost every category. Added sugar shows up in products where the European version doesn't have any, including bread, yogurt, and pasta sauce. And ultra-processed food takes up roughly 57% of the average American diet compared to somewhere between 14 and 30% in most European countries. Any one of those alone could shift weight over time. And together, those factors could explain a lot of that pattern. And then there's an agricultural practice most Americans have never heard of, which comes up whenever this conversation reaches its edges.
They discovered that Roundup was a desiccant. And what that means, if you spray it on a crop, it will actually dry out the crop. And one of the big enemies of the farmer is that if there's rain around the time of harvest, their crops can get wet and then they get moldy and then it ruins the entire silo.
Yeah.
And So what Monsanto did is they began telling farmers, spray this on the crop, on your wheat, right before harvest or at the time of harvest. And it was so popular that about 85% of the Roundup that has been used in history has been used since 2006.
Wow.
And a large part of that is as a desiccant. And what that meant is for the first time, they're spraying it on food.
Yeah.
Right at harvest.
Yeah.
And for the first
Not
time.
early in the season when it may
Right.
have a chance to wash off, but actually just before you're going to eat them.
The desiccation practice itself is documented. Glyphosate is used on some wheat, oats, and barley crops shortly before harvest to speed up drying so the crop doesn't rot in the silo. Whether that's connected to the health issues people report is a much harder question. Mainstream celiac research hasn't found a direct link between glyphosate residues and celiac disease, and diagnoses have been rising gradually for decades rather than spiking after any single agricultural change. So the practice is real, the concern is understandable, and the causal link people online often draw isn't supported by the current science. But it's still the same pattern showing up in every part of this investigation. Something happens to food before it reaches the shelf, most shoppers don't know it's happening, and the question of whether it matters gets debated years after the practice went industry-wide. Stack all these pieces together, and they don't point at a single villain, they point at a food system optimized over 60 years for scale, distance, and shelf life instead of freshness and simplicity. The strange feeling shoppers keep describing isn't paranoia, it's a body noticing what the marketing doesn't say. Nobody has fixed it because the system was never actually broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. The buyer just wasn't the one who got to decide what it was designed for.